Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today I've been waiting a long time to have this special lady on our podcast. She is a dynamite speaker, been an incredible influence in the creation of our team leader certification program, is a team leader herself, is an adjunct practice advisor, and also co-teaching a workshop with me in the future and teaching a program with me. So she is just off the hook talented. So Patti Paz, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here, and I'm excited to share anything that I can offer and to help others in their journey. Looking forward to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's do this, Patti. Today's podcast is about really helping lawyers grow their practice through collaborating with what we call a team leader. And before we start taking apart what a team leader is, the distinction behind a team leader, the responsibilities of a team leader versus an office manager, why don't we just spend a couple of minutes talking about your journey to where you're at today? Because if anyone told you 10 years ago that you would not only be a team leader after a distinguished career in a law firm, but you'd also be teaching other people to be team leaders and leading coaching programs for lawyers, I think your head would have popped off. I think you'd have been like, no, there's no way that would ever happen.
So, absolutely.
So let's back up. So how did you get your start in the legal business? And you don't have to talk about age or time, but how did you get your start?
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
Well, I started in the legal assistant program and got my foot in the door as a receptionist and just worked my way through. I started out answering the phones and while I was going to school, and I even did running for law firms. And then it just kind of grew from there. I finished school and I just kind of worked through each position in a law firm basically. And I like that you want to start with the office managing question because I really never thought about the start and how I did office managing. And really, I just kind of jumped into office managing because there was stuff in the office that needed to be done and nobody was doing it. So I did it.
So let's stay here for a moment. So a lot of, as you're listening to this, regardless of the role you were at in the law firm, one of the challenges is that sometimes by default, or purposefully, we promote someone as a lawyer to an office manager. And the real thought behind that is not a real thought. It's more like a reactionary, oh, for the love of God, here's somebody you first and foremost trust. Secondarily, they understand how everything works. Three, they have a great sense of client touch. They understand how I like things done. And so by default, they roll into this role of being an office manager. And the problem with being an office manager is that you get a lot of responsibility, but very, very little authority. And you usually don't know where the lines are. They're blurred. And so kind of like you said, you're more like the chief cleaner upper.
Yes, even the break room.
Yeah, even the break room,
And the babysitter. And you're the do all because nobody else is doing it. And you become the person that people turn to.
Yeah, so
it's no empowerment publicly.
No support publicly. Patty will take care of it. So let's spend a moment there because I want lawyers to hear this differently, and I want potential team leaders and office managers to hear this differently. So sometimes, and these are my words, and they may not be politically correct, Patty, so I may get in trouble here. Sometimes the office manager is more like the tribal priestess or the tribal shaman. And they integrate a lot of cultural habits and processes inside the little tribe that we call a law firm. And they just have acquired institutional knowledge. They know everything because they've been there from the longest. And so they continue to be the longest. You think you agree with that?
Yes, and I think they do that without even realizing it.
Yep.
I mean, it's just they're just getting their job done and getting things done that need to be done, and they don't even realize what they're doing.
So my experience, and I think you've said this in the past, the office manager sometimes ends up being the babysitter, the maid, and the chief cleanup person behind everybody, like cleaning up behind the lawyer, cleaning up behind clients, everybody. And I think you said it well. It's a pretty reactive role, and it's something that kind of evolves over time. And some people think this is a really good thing to be an office manager, and I usually think it's a terrible thing because you're trapped.
Yes.
Excuse me. So you're trapped. So
People
let's
trapped.
Yeah, so let's talk about the distinction, what's different with a team leader? Because you lead a team leader program, you consider yourself a team leader. What's the major difference in your mind of a team leader versus an office manager?
Well, I think the biggest, there's so many differences, but the one I think of right off is proactive. It's proactive, and there's some thought behind it. It's not just a person thrown in to take care of things. It's office managing is just that. Like I was saying, it's managing. Team leading, it's leading people. And it's very exciting when you're leading people and you're all in it for a better cause and to have great customer service, making the firm better and you better. And I think that empowerment is a huge part of it. So they really need to be empowered publicly. And the difference is with understanding that they are able to make a difference and you're behind them. The attorney owner is behind you and they're empowering you as well. And I think that there's so much that a team leader can do for managing projects. Office managers, usually they have another gig, right? They're doing 3 jobs. When we kind of get organized and streamline what the team leader does and have an actual job description, because an office manager doesn't have a job description, right? They've just created their own job description. And the attorney, you probably ask the attorney and office manager the job descriptions, they'd have 2 totally different things. But team leading, you're thinking ahead and you're creating a job description for the team leader. You're giving them the tools that they need to do their job instead of just throwing them in the trenches.
So let's talk. There's 2 other things that you said I want to go back to because you said a lot already. Culture in the firm. So the first thing is we've already kind of established that if you're a lawyer, you're going to have a plan, and a plan that you actually communicate in writing and verbally to your team lead so they know where you're going. So you're both kind of literally rowing in the same direction. So the first challenge as a lawyer, if you want to break out of the office manager limit of span of management, because if you actually have a plan and you can build 2 to 3, 1 team leader and 2 to 3 department leads, then you can proactively increase the span of management. And if you can increase your span of management beyond 4 to 6 to 12 to 24 and run it well, then you have the ability to scale your firm. But most firms don't grow because of their inability to market. It's their inability to build management infrastructure. And the team lead, to me, is the first key linchpin to that. The second thing you said was culture. Now, culture to me, and you'll have to correct me from your perspective or tell me how you see it, culture for me comes from a byproduct of agreed upon values. So that requires a firm to have a values, like these are our core values, and this is our mission statement. So when someone doesn't play according to the core values and they don't play against with the mission statement, then you can point out, hey, this is the culture. We're not living according to our culture. Until you do that, then you're kind of in a position where I like them, I don't like them. They're doing a good job, they're not doing a good job. So it's kind of hard to be a team lead if there's not agreed upon. I mean, what do you think? Is it not agreed upon values and not agreed upon mission statement, not agreed upon culture, right? What do you
If you can't get everybody in the same boat, understanding where you're going, like you were saying, then it creates chaos. And culture, I didn't understand culture until about 10 years ago. Excuse me, I need to get a drink. And the damage it can cause when you bring somebody on that doesn't have the same core values and what it can do to your culture and your team.
So what happened? What was the story?
Um, well, the characteristics that integrity, those types of things, you can't teach those. You bring somebody on and you think that once they start hanging out with all these great people, they're just going to take this on and they're going to become part of the team and, take ownership in it and all those kinds of things. It doesn't just happen. It's something that you have to look for when you're interviewing. When your team leader, not you, is interviewing and hiring, they need to look for those core values that fit within your culture. So I'm trying to think of an exact example of I had somebody come on that it kind of fits the same story that you had. It was basically just did a lot of talking and not a lot of doing.
Mm.
And shuffling papers, seeming busy when they're not busy, not jumping in to help other team members when they weren't busy. Those types of situations. If the one of the core values is accountability, integrity within your firm, and professionalism, and being a great team player. If that team member isn't handling or exuding those cultures, those core values, they're not going to automatically fit in, and the rest of the team is going to notice that. So this individual just was kind of did her own thing in her own little office. When she got her job done, that didn't matter. That's your job. This is my job. And it wasn't a fit, and we had to figure out what we needed to do. And you have to figure out, can we train, or is this just a problem? They just don't fit the culture. They just don't have our core values. And that's not something that the attorneys can always recognize when they're busy running their firm.